We all know that boundaries are important, protecting your time and your energy and your resources. It's really about conflicting priorities, your priorities, their priorities. So, whose priorities should win if they are conflicting? Do you care about your priorities? Are they important? Because if you're always saying yes, if you never say no, essentially what you're saying is that your priorities aren't important. Steve Jobs said focusing is about saying no. Warren Buffett said we need to learn the slow yes and the quick no. We need to be slow to say yes and we need to be quick to say no. And of course, most of us do the opposite of that. We want to say yes. We have this urge to say yes because the other person, of course, is pleased when we say yes, which makes us feel good. But then we're stuck with possibly this thing that we shouldn't have said yes to, and now we're in a tough situation. Tony Blair said, "The art of leadership is saying no and not saying yes. It's very easy to say yes," he said. And it's true. Saying no is about doing the hard thing. So why is it really so hard? Well, let's look at 3 reasons. First, we don't want to hurt people. We don't want to disappoint people. We don't want to feel like the bad guy and feel responsible for them being disappointed. We're going to feel guilty. We don't want to feel that guilt. Second, is your fear of conflict stopping you from saying no when you should, even if you have a good reason? I have a client who was invited to a party by a good friend, and it was a family party, something that was important to this friend. And it turned out that the party was outdoors and it was on the day of a heat wave. And my client has a medical condition that it's very possible that a trip outdoors for a whole afternoon in a heat wave could mean a trip to the hospital. And yet my client was racked with guilt for needing to say no and feeling like, oh, that was the wrong thing to do and I let them down. And you might be thinking, well, that's completely irrational because there was a medical reason. Like, that's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it? My client is a very smart, capable leader. And this is what we do. We are smart and we are capable, but we have this deep fear inside that even in that kind of a situation, we feel bad for saying no. And it comes from this deep need for acceptance. Acceptance it's a primeval survival instinct that we want to be accepted by the group. I want to be part of the group. That is safety and survival from the old days, way the old days, and identity. I'm part of this group. So that reluctance to say no goes very deep, and it comes from this place of I've got to be safe, I've got to be secure, I've got to have identity, I've got to have belonging. So when we say no, we feel like we're risking conflict and rejection, and we're jeopardizing our safety, we're jeopardizing our survival. So look really carefully at the things you're saying yes to and ask yourself, should you be saying yes to those? Are there some opportunities for you to say no, but fear is holding you back? Third, are you saying yes when you should say no because you're afraid of the future? You've been asked to do something and you know you should say no, but you're afraid that if you do say no, then the door is going to close in the future. I fell squarely into that trap earlier in my consulting career. I'd be called for and asked to get onto consulting assignments during time that I had already slated for another project, and I had this fear that if I say no, that they're going to stop calling and the opportunities actually are going to stop coming. And you may say, well, that's true. If you keep saying no, then they're going to stop calling. Well, do you know the future? You don't. You're second guessing and playing way ahead into the future. And you got to think about the current costs. If you continue to say yes, there's a cost to something. And it tends to be, if you're saying yes to their priorities, it's costing you your priorities. And it did cost me a big project that was a long-term project that was a big priority for me that I kept putting off and putting off and putting off. So I became an obedient soldier to future fear, and I sacrificed my own future goals. Live now. Whatever it is for you that you keep being tempted to say yes to, you got to listen to your inner compass and ask yourself, what am I sacrificing for now or for the future if I keep saying yes to these things? So don't be obedient to that future fear. Rather, think about the future that you want. So if this resonates with you and you think, I say yes way more than I should, or even a little more than I should, ask yourself, why is it? What's the fear behind it? Is it the fear of disappointing people? Is it the fear of conflict? Is it the fear of the future? And really dig down, see what's going on, expose it to the light. As one of my clients says, sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. And it tends to be when you take a good look at these things and you expose them, you make it easier for yourself to say, that's nonsense. And there's a better way for me to go and to honor my own priorities, to honor what's important to me, to honor what's healthy for me, so that I can create the life and the future that I want to.